Hello, welcome to the Daily News Ukraine channel. Today is February 14th and our daily review of news about Ukraine. Germany, Poland, Canada, Portugal, Spain, Norway, Denmark, and the Netherlands are working together to provide Leopard battle tanks to Ukraine. The relevant statement was made by U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin at the opening of the 9th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in the Ramstein format in Brussels, and Ukrinform correspondent reports. A consortium of countries, including Germany, Poland, Canada, Portugal, Spain, Norway, Denmark, and the Netherlands, are working together to provide Leopard battle tanks to Ukraine, Austin said. In his words, for more armored power, the United States, the Czech Republic, and the Netherlands are jointly providing more than 90 T-72 tanks in addition to Poland's latest donation of T-72s. Moreover, the United Kingdom has provided a company of Challenger main battle tanks and has worked with several countries to source more ammunition for Ukraine's defenders. Austin also mentioned that the United States, Germany, and the Netherlands are working together to provide Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine. In addition, France and Italy are working to provide a SAMP/T air defense system. A reminder that the 9th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in the Ramstein format is taking place in Brussels on February 14, 2023. The Ukraine Defense Contact Group will deliver the support they have promised to Ukrainian defenders in order to advance during the spring counteroffensive. The relevant statement was made by U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin at the opening of the 9th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in the Ramstein format in Brussels, and Ukrinform correspondent reports. This contact group has made it clear that we will support Ukraine's fight for freedom over the long haul, and help Ukraine hold and advance during the spring counteroffensive, Austin noted. In his words, with unity and urgency, the member countries of the contact group will deliver the support that they have promised to Ukraine. A reminder that the 9th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in the Ramstein format is taking place in Brussels on February 14, 2023. Photo, Twitter. International partners have committed $50 billion in military aid to Ukraine since the Russian full-scale invasion started. The relevant statement was made by U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin at the opening of the 9th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in the Ramstein format in Brussels, and Ukrinform correspondent reports. We have committed nearly $50 billion in lethal assistance to Ukraine since the start of Russia's all-out invasion last February 24, Austin said. In his words, a lot has been done, but it is necessary to intensify assistance, especially at this crucial moment. A reminder that the 9th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in the Ramstein format is taking place in Brussels on February 14, 2023. Photo, EPA. In Donetsk region, Russian forces launched attacks in several directions, destroying houses, injuring and killing civilians. Pavlo Kirilenko, head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration, said this in a Telegram post, Ukrinform reports. In the Volnovakha direction, one person was injured in Volodar. Novokrenka and Bohoyavlenka are under shelling. In the Lysychansk direction, one person was killed in Stavki, the Lyman community. In Lyman, one person was injured, 3 houses were damaged. It was loud at night in Siversk and on the outskirts of the community, the regional governor wrote. He also noted that the night passed relatively calmly in the Donetsk direction, isolated shelling of Avdiivka was recorded. In the Mariinka community, Mariinka and the village of Koshtantinivka came under enemy fire. In the Kurakivka community, an industrial area in Kurakivka and a warehouse zone in Hernik were struck. In the Horlivka direction, one person was injured in Sherbanivka, the Toretsk community. 2 houses were damaged in Vasyukivka, the Soldar community, as well as a multi-story building in Bakhmut. As reported, Russian invaders killed 1 civilian and injured 3 more in Donetsk region on February 13. Photo, Pavlo Kirilenko, Telegram. Ukraine needs between $40 billion to $48 billion of funding this year in order for its economy to function. Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, said this at a press conference in Dubai, Ukrinform reports, referring to Bloomberg. According to her, the IMF is working on a program with Ukraine and has been supporting it in running a war economy. The US and European Union are involved in this process. I am full of admiration for the Ukrainian authorities, she said. The IMF chief also described hearing sirens and Ukrainian officials went to bomb shelters during their virtual meetings with the Washington-based lender. As reported by Ukrinform on February 13, an IMF mission, led by Gavin Gray, began policy discussions with the Ukrainian authorities to prepare for the review of program monitoring with board involvement, PMB. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Ukraine's Minister of Defense Alexei Reznikov have arrived at a meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in the Ramstein format, where a new aid to Ukraine will be discussed. Ukrinform reports this with reference to Austin's Twitter page. It's always a pleasure to meet with my good friend and Ukrainian counterpart, Alexei Reznikov. The 50-plus nations participating in the UDCG stand united with you in this fight for Ukraine's sovereignty and self-defense, Austin said. As reported, the 9th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in the Ramstein format will be held in Brussels today, February 14. It's always a pleasure to meet with my good friend and Ukrainian counterpart, Alexei Reznikov. The 50-plus nations participating in the UDCG stand united with you in this fight for Ukraine's sovereignty and self-defense. pic.twitter.com/VLWSD5V5QK, Secretary of Defense Lloyd J. Austin 3, at SECDEF, February 14, 2023 Photo, Twitter. The armed forces of Ukraine eliminated about 139,080 Russian troops in Ukraine from February 24, 2022 to February 14, 2023, including 740 soldiers over the past day alone. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said this in a post on Facebook, according to Ukrinform. The enemy's total combat losses include also 3,286 tanks, plus 3 over the past day, 6,500 armored combat vehicles, plus 8, 2,299 artillery systems, plus 9, 466 multiple launch rocket systems, 234 air defense systems, 298 warplanes, plus 2, 286 helicopters, 5,155 motor vehicles, plus 5, 18 warships/cutters, 2,011 unmanned aerial vehicles, plus 4, 218 special equipment units, plus 1. A total of 857 enemy cruise missiles were shot down. Read also, War Update, Ukrainian forces down 2 Russian warplanes in past day. The data is being verified, the General Staff noted. As reported by Ukrinform on February 13, the Ukrainian Air Force launched 15 strikes enemy positions. In addition, Russia's Su-24M and Su-25 were downed. Russian forces are being given orders to advance in most sectors, but they have not massed sufficient offensive combat power on any one axis to achieve a decisive effect. The UK Ministry of Defence said this in its latest defence intelligence update on the situation in Ukraine, Ukrinform reports. It is noted that in the last 3 days, Wagner Group forces have almost certainly made further small gains around the northern outskirts of the contested Donbas town of Bakhmut, including into the village of Krasna Ora. However, organized Ukrainian defense continues in the area. The tactical Russian advance to the south of the town has likely made little progress, the report says. Read also, War Update, Ukrainian forces down 2 Russian warplanes in past day. According to the UK Ministry of Defense, in the north, in Kremenny-Svatov sector of Luhansk Oblast, Russian forces are making continuous offensive efforts, though each local attack remains on too small a scale to achieve a significant breakthrough. Russia likely aims to reverse some of the gains Ukrainian forces made over September-November 2022. There is a realistic possibility that their immediate goal is to advance west to the Zherbrets River. Overall, the current operational picture suggests that Russian forces are being given orders to advance in most sectors, but that they have not massed sufficient offensive combat power on any one axis to achieve a decisive effect, the report says. The UK Ministry of Defence in its previous intelligence update said that the breakthrough of Ukraine's armed forces in Zaporizhia and Luhansk would seriously challenge the viability of Russia's land bridge with Crimea and further undermine Russia's professed war aim of liberating Donbass. Photo, illustrative. Andriy Yermak, head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, had a phone call with Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor to the President of the United States. According to the Ukrainian president's press service, Yermak informed his interlocutor about the current situation at the front. The parties also discussed the strong support that the United States will continue to provide Ukraine as the anniversary of the war approaches, as well the importance of continued communication. Read also, Yermak on Special Tribunal for Russia, we already discussing specific mechanisms. Yermak thanked the American people, the U.S. President, and both chambers of the U.S. Congress for supporting Ukraine in the struggle for freedom and shared democratic values. As reported, the Ukraine Defense Contact Group will meet in Brussels today, February 14. Photo, President's Office. As a result of Russia's full-scale armed aggression, 461 children were killed and 923 more were injured in Ukraine. As of the morning of February 14, 2023, more than 1,384 children were affected in Ukraine as a result of the full-scale armed aggression of the Russian Federation. According to the official information provided by juvenile prosecutors, 461 children were killed and more than 923 received injuries of various degrees of severity, the Ukrainian Prosecutor General's office wrote on Telegram. It is noted that these figures are not final, as work is underway in the areas of active hostilities, in the temporarily occupied and liberated territories. Most children were affected in Donetsk region 444, Kharkiv region 272, Kyiv region 123, Kherson region 87, Zaporizhia region 84, Mykolaiv region 83, Chernihiv region 68, Luhansk region 66, and Dnipropetrovsk region 64. Read also, 2 civilians killed in enemy shelling of Kherson region on February 13. A 14-year-old boy was injured by enemy shelling in Lyman, Donetsk region. In addition, regular airstrikes and shelling of civilian infrastructure and residential areas by the Russian armed forces damaged 3,126 educational institutions, of which 338 were completely destroyed. As reported by Ukrinform, the enemy uses schools in captured Luhansk region to temporarily accommodate Russian troops. Today we were talking about those news. Leopard Coalition, Austin names countries working together to provide tanks to Ukraine. Austin at Ramstein meeting, we will help Ukraine advance during spring counteroffensive. Partners committed $50 billion in military aid to Ukraine since Russian invasion started, Austin. Donetsk Regional Administration shows aftermath of enemy strikes. Ukraine needs up to $48 billion in funding this year, IMF head. 9th Ramstein, Pentagon chief meets Reznikov. Ukraine's armed forces eliminate 740 Russian invaders over past day. Russian troops being given orders to advance in most sectors, but they lack combat power, British intelligence. Yermak, Biden's advisor, discussed situation at front, U.S. defense support. Russian aggression affects 1,384 children in Ukraine.